And welcome to the Fantasy Flex Podcast. I am your host, Chris Raybon, joined by my guy, Sean Kerner. And today we're going to talk all about week 4 props. The podcast is presented by Prize Picks. Sean, how you doing?
Real good. So I think week 1, I went 5-0, right? And then week 2, I went 1-4. Last week, I think I went 3-2, or maybe 4-2, because I think I also said I wanted Justin Fields under 44.5 rushing yards. But I think we're in the right direction here. So looking forward to week 4. How about you?
Yeah, I think we both went 4-1 on the official 5. By my count. But I mean, that was just me doing my math in my head as I.
All I know is I got the Justin Fields one completely wrong. So maybe I gave myself 2 losses for that.
It deserves about 5. That was me. Like I just felt like I had that whole game capped wrong. But let's hope that doesn't happen again. Maybe just not bet on rookie quarterbacks anytime soon again. I mean, it just seems disastrous in all these different ways. So it's not just an Urban Meyer thing. So, it's the best thing I can say about Urban Meyer. But let's get right into. We're going to do 1 quarterback prop, 2 running back props, and 2 receiving props. The lines are provided by Prize Picks. Sean, start us off.
So I was going to go with Matt Ryan under 273.5 passing yards here. I love that prop. And then I realized, wait, Tom Brady is playing at New England this week. I already said that I would bet the over no matter what. It is now down to 314.5. So I'm going over 314.5 passing yards for Tom Brady. This is just one of those situations. I said Kobe's final game. Justin Jefferson, week 17 last year, when he needed 111 receiving yards to break the rookie record. There's just certain props where just I'm going to bet the over no matter what. It sounds like a donkey thing, but when it comes to things like this, and a guy like Tom Brady, I think he really wants to go off here at New England on Sunday Night Football. He's also 68 yards away from passing up Drew Brees all time in passing yards. So, I think realistically, I would project this closer to 350. So I'd probably pick this up to like 335.5. We'll see how high this goes, but I think 314 is way too low.
I mean, this is my favorite, I think, pod of the week because I have already done like 2 other pods with you. I've also done our betting pod on the Action Network feed with Stuckey. And so by the time I come here, I have like a lot more, very strong takes on different things. And this Patriots-Bucks game has been still the one game that I struggle to kind of handicap. And it's funny though, because earlier in the week, I talked to you first, and then you were like, this is just a Tom Brady smash spot. He's gonna go crazy against his former team. Then I get on with Stuckey and we do the Action Network NFL pod, and he picks the Patriots as his money line underdog for week 4. And he's like, Belichick is going to contain Brady. He's going to know exactly how to defend him. So now I'm back at square one with this game, which is I still have no like strong lean either way. So, but it's just interesting to me that there seems to be a lot of disagreement in the market because, like you said, I thought 325 was ridiculously high for it to open, but then it dropped 10 yards, and now you're taking the over here. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think? Because like I guess my concern is that I think the Bucks are just a better team, and I don't agree with Stuckey that they're going to win the game necessarily, but I do worry about the game script because of that. But I guess Brady, he's not scrambling, so he could still throw for 330 in like a positive game script.
Yeah, and we talked earlier in the week. We weren't sure if Antonio Brown was going to be able to return from the COVID list. Mm-hmm. He is. So when you have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, sounds like Gronk's going to play another revenge game spot for him too. I just don't know how Belichick's going to be able to stop him. This is, it's a tougher matchup for Brady. I'm not denying that, but just there's certain situations like this where I think the psychology of just like an athlete of Brady's caliber, he wants to prove a point in this game. I think obviously he wants to win this game, but does he want to come out with 250 passing yards and a close win? No, I think a guy like Brady wants to just destroy the Patriots. And I've been saying he's going to have or I didn't say he was going to have, but I just have deja vu about 2013 Peyton Manning. This is the second year in this system. He was playing with a torn MCL for most of last year or something. Like, just the sky's the limit for Brady this year. We've already seen that happen. So I don't know why he's going to all of a sudden slow down heading back to Foxborough. I just think I'm not overthinking this is what I'm getting at. And I'm just taking the over here.
So how many yards is the Belichick snub of an in-person meeting to discuss Tom Brady's leaving the Patriots? Because I don't know if you read the article on ESPN, but there's a book coming out, and one of a lot of inside information about the Patriots and Brady and Belichick. And one of the things was that Brady wanted to kind of say goodbye to Bill in person, and Bill like refused and was like he's too busy and like they should do it on the phone. So how many yards do you think that's worth?
That's what I'm saying. Probably 100. You don't like
a whole drive.
We're not talking about a normal just a normal athlete already when you get motivated. We're talking about the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. Like, you don't think that he like would love to throw for 500 yards here? You're out of your mind if you don't think that. So again, like, this is one of those props. I just think it can't. It sounds like a donkey thing to say, but it just can't be high enough for me to be interested in the under. It just isn't. Just like Kobe Bryant's his points per prop for that final game was like 42.5. I just max bet the over on that wherever I could. Justin Jefferson last year, I'm putting it in that category of just like, it doesn't matter what the line is. Like,
any juice, any
number.
Okay.
Like you said, those other markets where you can bet over 400 yards or things like that, just I want it all right now.
Okay. It's just interesting. I really didn't have a take on this game that was that strong, so it's just fascinating to me to hear these different ones. And I'm kind of with you. Like, the more I think about it, Brady's definitely wants to have a good game. I'm sure even Gronk does. And it's the Patriots D is good, but Belichick's not like a magician. Like, he can only do so much. Brady went and won a Super Bowl. Belichick's team was, hovering around 500 last year. So, all right. So you're going Tom Brady over 314.5 passing yards for your quarterback prop. I am going Kyler Murray. Last week I went over. This week I'm going under on his rushing yards. And the line is 37.5 at Prize Picks. First of all, forget the matchup. This season, he's just not running as much. And we've kind of talked about it here and there. When do we expect him to run more? Maybe he's not. So he has 5 carries for 20 yards in week 1, 5 for 31 in week 2, 7 for 19 in week 3. So he hasn't gone over this prop yet this season. But the real reason I like it is not only that, it's the matchup. Remember what the Rams do. They even though Staley's now with the Chargers, they run that Brandon Staley type defense. They're going to play a lot of zone coverage, which means you're having your eyes on the quarterback, and they play a lot of quarters coverage, which means you have the 2 safeties deep and the 2 corners dropping deep. So you're protecting. You always got guys kind of looking at the quarterback and kind of keeping him in check. And you play a lot of cover 2 as well. So I don't see Murray going over this number because he hasn't against the Rams yet. 28 yards, 0 yards, 15 yards, 3 yards. Those are his 4 games against the Rams in his career. And remember, Sean McVay has had a ton of success against Cliff Kingsbury. The Cardinals haven't won yet. And one of the things that they've done is contain this run game. So, I think they play more cover 2 actually in this spot, to keep some of the D-backs even closer to the line of scrimmage. But that's their scheme. It's cover 2, it's cover 4, quarter zone. And it's just not easy to run against that as it is against the man coverage team where the DBs are going to turn around. So yeah, I think they're going to keep Kyler in the pocket, and he's going to beat him a couple times probably from the pocket. Last week I had over on his passing yards. This week going under on his rushing yards, 37.5.
Yeah, I like it. I'm projecting him at 30 rushing yards. So I'd probably set this prop closer to like 28.5.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's some value here. You've always done great work on, like scrambling rates, things like that. So I trust you here. Are you worried at all that Andy Dalton, Carson Wentz, and Tom Brady went over the rushing prop against the Rams?
No, because that's how the Rams play defense. They want those guys. They want
those
guys to go. Like that's when they're going to play their quarters coverage and go straight up. Take the receivers away. This one, I expect them to show some. They'll still play their quarters on third down, but it's just those 2 deep safeties over the top. But that coverage in general, because you're playing zone, you have guys looking at the quarterback. So they could be a cover 3 team, and it would still be. It's like if they're just playing a ton of zone, regardless of where the safeties are. It's going to be tough, but in this scenario, They happen to be a cover 2, cover 4 team. I think it's been working against Kyler. So why? And he hasn't gone over even period. So this is a high line.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He hasn't gone over, and he's had some 2 amazing scrambling plays where he ended up throwing to Rondale Moore. So yeah, he's more content, just throwing it as opposed to just taking it run. So yeah, I can get behind this as well. Again, projecting at 30, so I'm in line with you here.
Yeah, I have it at 32. So I would take it down to about 28.5. I love the prop everywhere. It's one of my favorite of the week. All right, let's go to running backs. Who's your first running back prop for week 4, Sean?
I'm going with Aaron Jones over 65.5 rushing yards. I think the Steelers, they desperately need TJ Watt to return this week. Their defense just hasn't looked as dominant this year. And, so I'm not worried about this matchup when it comes to Aaron Jones. He's typically matchup proof. We just need him to get carries, and he'll typically break a couple big runs. So I think this line's a little bit too low, considering, the Packers are home favorites by about a touchdown now. This should be a run-heavy game script. He's seen a pretty healthy carry share the past couple games. It's a 70% carry share among running backs. I threw away the week 1 game, the blowout against the Saints. We can't really overrate that or include that in the sample. So I think, I'm projecting him for around 16, 17 carries here, which a running back the caliber of Aaron Jones, that's probably worth a prop closer to like 75.5 yards is where I would set this. So I think we're getting about 10 yards of value here.
This is one where we actually are on opposite sides. I have him right around 60 yards. So I'm a little bit under here. I am just absolutely scared of every Packer situation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I won't get into it because it's not a betting podcast, but Mike Tomlin as an underdog.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Coming off a loss is just, when I tell you the numbers are ridiculous and and he's been in the league now, it's like over a decade. They're just ridiculous. So I'm very scared of a letdown spot. So I have him projected a little bit conservatively. I have him at 15 carries for 60 yards, which, he's still my running back 8 in fantasy. So it's not like there's not a scenario where I see him going over this, but I'm a little scared of the Packers this week. It's just, it's one of those spots for me where I've seen this movie too many times. It's been Mike Tomlin.
I agree. You don't want to bet against Tomlin as an underdog, but you typically don't want to bet against Aaron Jones either. So we can kind of both be right in the situation. But like I said, just based on my model, I am seeing him get, 16 to 17 carries. So this prop just seems a little bit too low.
Yeah, I mean, if I bumped him up to to 17, he'd be over. If I bumped him up to 16, he'd be essentially right on it. So yeah, it's just a kind of minor tweaks here and there. But all right, for me, I'm going with Saquon Barkley under 60.5 rushing yards. I believe this is one we talked about earlier in the week. Still like it. New Orleans has allowed 145 yards on 57 carries to running backs. That is 2.5 yards per carry. If you look back at their rushing defense DVOA over the last couple of years, always near the top of the league. This has been a very good run defense for years now. And it's just going to be tough for Saquon. And he's healthy now. He's playing a ton of snaps. And the numbers really aren't great. Last week he got us a touchdown. He kind of bailed us out from, another kind of so-so game, but he's playing more snaps and it still hasn't looked great. So the Saints, they're not even giving up 60 yards per game total to all running backs. So even if Saquon were to play 100% of snaps, if the Saints continue doing what they do, and remember this Giants offense, Bredesen, another lineman went down. They're just losing linemen left and right. This line is not very good. So, I mean, another game where I'm kind of scared to totally bet it. I don't want to bet against the Giants here, but I'm more comfortable doing it because I do think this is kind of a trap game for the Saints. But Barkley, 13 carries for 57 yards in week 2, had a 41-yard run. So without that, 12 carries for 16 yards. And then in week 3, 16 carries for 51 yards. Week 1, obviously, just 10 for 26, but I'll throw that out. He only played 48% of the snaps. But 84% of the snaps in week 2, 57 yards. 86% of the snaps in week 3, 51 yards. Now we're giving him 60.5 against a defense averaging 2.5. This is a smash prop under Saquon. 60
Yeah,
and a
I
half.
mean, I'm not giving him 16 and a
Yeah.
half. I'm closer to 55. And yeah, you made a lot of good points. I was very bullish on him last week. He ended up being my RB5, especially after they declared DeVante Booker inactive. For me, that was just a sign that, he's close to 100%. He can handle the full workload. So this week, I'll be interested to see if they make Booker active and maybe start to limit his workload a little bit, because Barkley was limited in practice so far this week. So they are going to have to manage his reps a bit. And against the Saints, yeah, like you said, this is a brutal matchup. So I mean, even if he gets every snap here, I don't think he can go over. So this is pretty easy under for me as well.
Saquon Barkley is limited in theory and in practice.
Just
putting that out there.
Right. I mean, it would not surprise us if he breaks off an 80-yard touchdown at some point, but maybe not against the Saints.
Yeah, we're just looking for plus EV bets here. I think it's one of them. Who you got for your second running back prop?
Well, this one, I like this one to correlate with my Tom Brady over infinity passing yards.
There you go.
And that's Leonard Fournette under 43.5 rushing yards. And, to no surprise to anybody, the Bucs have led the league in early down pass rate this year. So I expect that to continue this week. And, a guy like Fournette, where he's technically in a running back committee with Ronald Jones, that means he has a little bit lower floor. And, Ronald Jones out-touched him in terms of carries last week. And this is a situation that could be pretty fluid. So it's really hard to peg, but I just think Fournette's floor is much, much lower. I would set this closer to 35.5, especially considering how much I think Brady's going to throw here. So I could see them, working Fournette more in the passing game. We're still unsure if Gio Bernard's going to be able to suit up. So they may want to use Fournette more in the passing game and have Ronald Jones eat into his carry share here. So I think this is a pretty easy under for me here, under 43.5 rushing yards.
Knowing Bruce Arians, he probably just call up Keyshawn Vaughn and still not use Ronald Jones. But
probably, yeah.
Yeah, no. This is high for Fournette, given what we've seen out of the Bucs run game this year. It's been pretty much non-existent most of the time. They know they have Tom Brady. I do expect New England to play two safeties deep and kind of dare him to run the ball. But like you said, there's three backs that are going to mix in. And then Fournette still has to get, his 10, 11 carries and be pretty efficient, most likely to hit this number. So, I'm with you on that one. For me, I'm going Zeke Elliott under 63.5 rushing yards. And this is more of an efficiency play. We have seen Zeke's carry share come down, even in positive game script games. The team's carries obviously went up, but, Zeke, he's starting to, Tony Pollard's mixing in more and more. Pollard got the goal line carry. So, non-quarterback rush attempts, Zeke had 79% in week 1, 52% in week 2, 53% in week 3. So he's averaging 14.7 carries on the year. It's about where I have him projected. And I have him a good 10 yards or so short of this number for the median. So, and that's because not only is there some uncertainty with, the floor for his carries and snaps, with Pollard playing better and better, but the Carolina Panthers, get this, and I know it's been against some weak opponents, but in 3 games, they've allowed only 94 rushing yards to running backs total on 43 carries. So, 43 for 94. This is a situation where Dallas may say, this front is playing well. We need to throw it. So that's why I'm a little concerned about Zeke's carry share, because Panthers allowing 2.2 yards per carry to backs. The Cowboys could have a positive game script, but because it's a positive game script and they're throwing, by the time they get around to running, it could be more of the same with Zeke and Pollard, kind of almost 50-50, which is what we, for example, saw against the Eagles, even though, they had a lot of carries. So it worked out for Zeke in that game. But against this front, I'm just betting on an efficiency reduction, and I'm kind of, selling on the carry share for Zeke here. So going under 63.5.
I love this because it sounds like we not disagree, but we're on opposite sides for 2 rushing props. Considering you like the under, I'll just probably avoid this prop altogether, but I'm projecting him at 67 yards. And similar to what I said last week, I just think the Cowboys are going to be a little bit more run heavy without Michael Gallup. And, Amari Cooper was banged up last week. We'll see if he's 100% here, but I guess it depends on what you think about the Cowboys versus Panthers here, but I do like them to win this game. And
yeah, I do.
The past couple of weeks when they've, they're on a 2-game win streak, They are the second highest run. They have the second lowest early down pass rate, which is kind of weird to see with the Cowboys and even the Bengals. They're the two least pass happy teams the past couple weeks. So I think this is another week where both Zeke and Pollard are probably going to beat ECR in fantasy. So I'm not touching this one. But yeah, I take your point for the under, but I'm just not going to touch this one.
I mean, I think Kellen Moore has done a really good job coordinating for the Cowboys.
Yes.
So I just don't know why he would run Zeke or Pollard excessively at the onset of the game into Hassan Reddick, what's his name? Derek Brown, Morgan Fox, Daquan Jones. I mean, Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson, like this whole front, all but like one of them has like a positive above average PFF grade. And that's Brian Burns, who we know is really good and had like one of the highest grades last year. So that's probably just like a slow start for him. So like, this is a ridiculous, like 2.1 yards per carry. I don't care who you're playing, 2.2 over a 3-game sample. Like
they played Kamara. They played Kamara.
Yeah, yep. Right. And what did they give up to him? Nothing for nothing. Like, he got like, let's see what it is. Alvin Kamara, 8 carries, 5 yards. If Alvin Kamara goes 8 for 5, then Zeke is going like 8 for 2. Like that. That's how I'm looking at this one. So I'm going under. But I get it. I think they'll win the game. I do like them if I had a better side. But I just think Kellen Moore has been coordinating so, and Dak is playing so well. I mean, he's been so accurate, probably the most accurate passer in the league, that I just think they're going to come out their own in this one. I think they come out their own in the football, and especially Carolina, J.C. Horn out, bringing in Henderson. I think that's the way to beat him. So I'm betting on some regression here for Zeke. All right, let's go to receivers. Who you got for your first receiver prop for week number 4?
I'm going with Calvin Ridley under 85.5 receiving yards. And this is partly due to what I said earlier. I do like the Matt Ryan under 273.5 passing yards. This Falcons team is not the pass happy offense we're used to seeing. They're more middle of the pack this year. And I think that could be due to Julio Jones not being on the team anymore. They're a little bit more run heavy. They've been using Cordell Patterson more. So Matt Ryan has a 4.6 ADOT this year. That does not jive well with a player like Calvin Ridley. So despite seeing 6.7 receptions a game, he is yet to clear 65 yards. So something's got to give here. And I don't think either scenario really goes well with this prop. So I'm projecting him closer to 75.5 here. I'm one of the biggest Calvin Ridley fans in the world. Like, I think he's an elite wide receiver, but just the scheme under Arthur Smith with the way Matt Ryan's playing, it's just not working for him when it comes to yardage. So I'm going to keep betting this under until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have him 6.3 for 77. So and that's the mean projection. So his median would be even a couple yards lower than that, if you kind of work it out. And on top of that, again, always like to get a feel for the beats and what's the narrative out of each city for each team. And Arthur Smith knows that fantasy owners are pissed at Kyle Pitts. So I think if anyone kind of gets a little boost and gets the ball forced in their direction, it's going to be Pitts and not Ridley, because Ridley's still catching the ball. It's just, the yards per catch is not there the way it was. So I think this is a decent one. Washington's defense has disappointed me, and I bet Washington, so I'm hoping they turn it around. But man, like if you look at all of the defenses around the league, Cincinnati's like a big surprise, Carolina, great surprise. Washington has to be the most disappointing. I mean, they're just getting torched. So that's like my only worry. But yeah, I still have them way under, and I totally agree with the prop. But I'm hoping Washington turns it around at some point, so it's not like a sweat, because they have been bad on defense. Like,
which
really
is crazy. I mean, they're still one of the best defenses on paper. I think we can all agree with that. But yeah, it just goes to show kind of how fickle defense is year to year. I mean, offense is usually way more stable. So just, when it comes to season-long prop bets, things like that, just keep that in mind, because it's so hard for a defense to be dominant year after year.
The one thing I love about this Ridley prop, there's a few things I like about it. Number one, it's just short of the projection. Number two, Ryan isn't throwing deep, but the Washington, even with the defense struggling, they still have 40 pressures. They're still top 3 in pressures. And that usually eventually turns into sacks. But also, what does pressure do to a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who's already throwing it under 5 yards
Yeah.
per attempt. Like that just speeds him up and makes it less likely that Ridley's going to catch a big downfield one.
Is this a big Cordell Patterson game? Is that what you're saying?
Sean, they are all big Cordell Patterson games.
That is true.
The signature of Arthur Smith thus far is Cordell Patterson.
It is looking that way. This football team defensive line up against this shaky Falcons offensive line could be a disaster. Either way, it's not good news for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, this is one of those props though where like he could catch like 10 balls for like 76, like because of Matt Ryan and the A-dot, and you know what I mean? Like, so
hopefully he doesn't catch 10 balls for the sake of this prop, but I agree.
Hey, he can go join Dalton Schultz and taking our money.
Oh my God. Don't bring up,
I will bring up Dalton Schultz.
Like right now, right?
Let's go right to that. Segue. Dalton Schultz under 38.5 receiving yards at Prize Pick is going to be my first receiving prop. I love this prop. It was 28.5 on Monday Night Football. We both bet the under. We got drilled. He went for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. And looking back on it, there were some things that I should have been more aware of, kind of a little more hesitant about. Another one of those defenses. And again, we have to really watch out for these Jonathan Gannon, Staley defenses. That was the Eagles. Same thing. A lot of 2 deep split safeties, cover 2, cover 4 zone. The Panthers, I think they're a little more multiple. They're going to do a little more of everything. They're not locked into that straight up 2 deep shell. And you get, even if they were, I mean, the Cowboys did play like a similar defense to that, in week 2 when they played the Chargers with Brandon Staley himself, and Schultz only had 4 catches for 18 yards. So it's not as if, it's an automatic, like even if he does play one of those defenses, but Carolina, I think is a little more kind of, they're going to play a lot of different things. And so, for this number to go up 10 yards, I think it's nuts. Carolina, just for some perspective, and I know, again, you got to take into account strength of opponent, but just for some perspective, Carolina is allowing 34.3 yards per game total to tight ends, 8th fewest in the league total. Now, Dalton Schultz is still splitting snaps exactly equally with Blake Jarwin. So it's pretty much a 50-50 split with those 2 guys. So there's a lot of outs for this one. The A-dot did climb a little bit last week, but overall Schultz is still a low 5.9 average depth of target tight end this season, even with some downfield targets last week in that 80-yard eruption. So there are a lot of outs for you to hit this prop. He could catch 5-6 balls and still go under because of the low A-dot. The defense could be paying more attention to him after he erupted last week and had, more production than like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Or he could just not be a bigger part of the game plan against the defense that's going to be a little different from the ones they've been facing the last couple of weeks when he's picked up, 4 catches 2 weeks ago, 6 catches last week. So a lot of ways to go under this one. Sell high on Dalton Schultz with the 10-yard bump, going under 38.5 for Schultz.
Yeah, I'm with you on here. I'm going to take a break from taking Dalton Schultz props for now. But I'm in agreement. And this is one of those things where maybe I was a week early and he ends up catching 0 balls this week. But one of my favorite things, or it's not one of my favorite things because I lose a prop, but when I do lose a primetime prop in glorious fashion like the Dalton Schultz one, when people on Twitter tell me, hey, I think you got this one pretty wrong. Yeah, no shit. And I'm my biggest critic. So with you, like when we lose a bet like this, we try to evaluate what went wrong, what we can do going forward. So I always use a losing bet like this as a teachable moment. I think, maybe I overlooked the defense a bit, and especially Amari Cooper playing less than 100%. Maybe I overlooked him being sort of a decoy, and I think that's what happened here. Yeah. And there's various things. So it would not surprise me if Dalton Schultz has another good game, but 38.5 is a bit too high here. I'm projecting it right in the 28.5 range where it was last week. So hopefully this is a situation where I was just a week ahead and you'll profit off this, but I will be abstaining from any Dalton Schultz props in the meantime.
Yeah. I mean, I would take this down to 32.5. Like that's, I have this pretty under. So yeah. All right. Who is your second receiving prop for this week?
So this one stood out to me, but it's DeVante Parker under 47.5 receiving yards. This feels a bit high with Will Fuller back in the mix. I know he missed practice earlier in the week, but he had a full practice yesterday, I think it was, or today. So he's back on track to play. So this is a crowded receiving core, and Mike Gesicki at tight end. Jacoby Brissett is under center now. So they're really playing more low ADOT football. He had a 6.6 ADOT last week, which is pretty low. So that turned into a bunch of dump offs to Jalen Waddle. We saw Mike Gesicki go off for 10 catches last week. So DeVante Parker's going to be this kind of odd man out where he's going to have to go over this on just maybe 3 to 4 receptions. And, I'm projecting his production to drop off quite a bit going forward. So yeah, I'm projecting this closer to 39.5. And I'd probably take this down to about 43.5.
Yeah, I think the key is Fuller. I think Fuller's presence, he's probably going to get worked in more to the offense, as the weeks kind of progress. Because last week, Parker still Fuller only ran a route on 70% of the dropbacks. So there's room for growth. And Waddle has been consistently pretty high, in the 90s all but one game. So and even in the 90s last week. Because you got to throw to him when you're backed up in your own end zone. You got to throw to Waddle 5 yards deep. So that, that just lowers Parker's floor. But no, I feel you. I think that you can only go under on this prop. And Parker's probably trending down, even though he wasn't really doing great to begin with. He's probably going to be trending down.
And what are your routes run projection for Fuller this week? I'm up to 76.5, but like you said, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes over 80. I think, his ceiling's probably 90%. Keep him fresh, but any kind of increased usage for Fuller is going to eat away from Parker here.
I have Waddle 90, Parker 85, Fuller 80. So kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're very close then.
Yeah. I think that's fair. About a 10%. Kind of splitting the difference between Parker and Fuller because they're both kind of outside guys, but it seems like Waddle's going to stay on the field. So
yeah.
All right. For my last one, I am going with our boy Robby Anderson over 43.5 receiving yards. And this one stands out to me for a number of reasons. Number one, again, a lot of the edges for me come and just listening to what, the team is saying. What are the reports out of Carolina? What's going on there? How are they feeling about this 3-0 team? The one thing the coaches are saying, despite this 3-0 start, we got to get Robby Anderson more involved. Only one catch last week against the Houston Texans for 8 yards. So this is and one catch in week 1. Now it went for 57 and a touch, but one catch in 2 of the 3 games for a guy who signed a big contract, a guy who's played with Sam Darnold before in their first potentially negative game script of the year. Because remember, they played the Jets, the Saints, and the Houston Texans and won comfortably in each of those games. First, probably negative game script. And you're going, against the Dallas team that, yes, Diggs is playing well, but Diggs will probably be on more most of the afternoon because Anderson hasn't been doing nothing. So this is just a get right spot for Robby Anderson. In his career as a Panther, he's been over this number in 13 of 19 games. So he's been over 43.5 in 68% of his games as a Panther. And he even got over it in one game this year, despite getting only one catch in that game. So I think this is a major get right spot for him. The Cowboys are allowing 208 yards per game to wide receivers, 6th most in the league. And that makes sense because their offense is pretty good. They're going to make you have to throw the football. So I think he's going to get schemed looks. This is a over just based on his entire Panthers career. His average depth of target is 17.7. So he gives you the potential to cash this out on just one catch, even on a deep ball down the field. So a lot of ways I think Robby goes over it. Not many ways I see him going under it, even though he's been under in 2 or 3 this year, just because we know that for a fact the coaches are going to scheme him up easy ones in this one.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement here. Our loyal listener, Steven Dominguez, who won our listener contest and was in that 4-person best ball draft with you, me, and Samantha, and you snaked him, Robby Anderson. That's our boy. He asked me on Twitter this week, is it time to drop Robby Anderson? I said,
no.
Let's give him a chance in a potential negative game script, and then we'll make a decision, because this is one of those games where it would not surprise me if he goes over this number on a single catch. Yeah. He's been the deep target. They're going to have to throw most likely. Like I said, I think Dallas should win this game. So we're going to see our first potential negative game script. They just got rid of Dan Arnold. CMC is hurt. So, I think we're going to see a narrow target tree with DJ Moore, who I love this week, and even Terrence Marshall. So I think this is the time to buy low on Robby Anderson if you can.
And keep in mind, 17.7 average at the target this year, but last season it was down at just under 10. So he will see a couple of deep targets. No doubt about that, but they could also get him more high percentage looks in this game, which is what he was doing last year, which is why, he was over this number in 12 of 16. So I think that's the key here. It's that this year, it's really been only the deep targets.
Which is, do you have any insight? Obviously really good with, staying up the beat and what teams are saying. Like, so last year, offensive coordinator Joe Brady used him as the X receiver role, the Mike Thomas role in this Sean Payton style scheme. And that's why I love Mike Williams this year. Like, have they gone away with that with Robby Anderson, or like what's the story there? Do you have any idea? Because that's why he was so consistent last year. Because like you said, he had a lower ADOT, really diverse route tree. And this year he seems back to what we expect from him, just the super high ADOT, just running goes. And, it's helped DJ more considerably, but I was just wondering if we had any idea if they changed the roles.
So I don't think they've changed his role a ton. I think it's been a product of the game script for the most part, because he played really well last year, but you play the Jets and then you blow out the Saints to the point where they don't even get to double digits. And then you play the Houston Texans with Davis Mills at quarterback, and you played Zach Wilson in his first game too. So that's just a really outlier type of game script for, the Panthers in general. Like, the Panthers last year were one of the worst teams in the league. Right. So you're talking about a team that goes from one of the worst teams in the league to playing, 2 layup matchups and a third against the Saints that they thoroughly dominated to the point. And remember, in week 1, Robby did get the 1 catch, 57 and a touchdown. So, going into week 2, you're not really concerned about it. They end up blowing him out. Okay. He doesn't do much. And then week 3, another game where they just didn't really need it. So this game, I think you're going to see, again, a lot of Diggs on Moore, and Diggs has been playing so good. I mean, that he makes that Cowboys defense like actually decent, because they were bad last year.
Yeah, and they really needed him to step up this year, because they got snaked, not only Patrick Surtain but JC Horn. Like, both cornerbacks went. So I thought it put a ton of pressure on Diggs this year, and he stepped up huge.
Yeah, but absolutely. And the one thing too about Robby is they're moving him around. That's why I don't think the roles have changed. Last season he played a career high 33% of snaps in the slot. This season, he's up to a new career high 38% in the slot. The last 2 games, he played 58% routes in the slot against New Orleans and 35% against Houston. So they're moving him around. Now they want to scheme to him. They'll get him some high percentage looks. So love Robby this week. And let me recap our picks. That's going to do it for our 5 picks for the Fantasy Flex Week 4 pod presented by Prize Picks. Sean is going Tom Brady over 314.5 passing yards. Aaron Jones over 65.5 rushing yards. Leonard Fournette under 43.5 rushing yards. Calvin Ridley under 85.5 receiving yards. And DeVante Parker under 47.5 receiving yards. I'm going Kyler Murray under 37.5 rushing yards. Saquon Barkley under 60.5 rushing yards. Ezekiel Elliott under 63.5 rushing yards. Dalton Schultz under 38.5 receiving yards. And Robby Anderson over 43.5 receiving yards. That is going to do it for us. You can find Sean on Twitter at @_oddsmaker. You can find me on Twitter at Chris Raybon. You can find us at those same handles in the award-winning Action Network app. Be sure to check out our fantasy football projections, rankings, and content at actionnetwork.com or in the Action app. And be sure to check out our DFS content and tools at fantasylabs.com. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.